An inmate at the county jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2. If you would like to permanently block your... Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
I don't consent to recording of this call. Is this Mr. Shinzy?
No, you called Rudy here. I do got information for you, Mike, since you called.
Okay, I talked to my mom. She's not feeling well, but she did try to call the jail to ask them about getting a file box for me and the stamps and stuff, and she said that they're basically saying the people above them are preventing them from doing these things, that they're just, as everybody says, they're just doing what they're told. All right, regarding the detractors, I'm more than ready and willing. I don't have it in front of me, but I will get it. I've got basically half a page, and I go through the United States Code 922, little g, little 1, section by section, and if you read it, section by section, all of the elements, there's like 3 elements, 4 elements, they all have to match. You have to be convicted of having been convicted of a felony, number 1. Okay, if you read under 921A 33BI, that's exactly where it's found. It says, if you were convicted of a felony, but you were not represented in trial, that conviction does not count. And at this trial, they showed that my convictions were certified, and on both of the forms it says there was no representation, that I was pro se.
I got a question just to make sure I'm clear, because a lot of things I'm really a little slow. So
Sure.
You're saying this is for your detractors, and yet,
Yes.
I'm not going to put this out, right? Unless you explicitly say. I mean, do you want this to go up north, or do you want this to go to Dorothy?
You can put this out, or if you want me to call back and read, I've already written a little excerpt. It's about a half a page long, but basically I go through the code, and as I just said, under the code, under their own law, it says under 921 little a 33BI, it says clearly that if you were convicted of a felony where you were not given representation, you had to have been represented at trial. And if you weren't, and you didn't waive your right, and I've never waived my right, when I went to trial in 2009, I thought all this stuff was legitimate. And I said, I want legal representation. I want an attorney. I was denied an attorney in 2009. According to the federal law, that conviction doesn't count. Okay. 2 years ago in 2017, I said, I do not waive my right to legal counsel, but I am entitled to have a counselor that is not conflicted. This guy that you're trying to appoint has conflicts. He represented a guy who tried to kill me. Okay, so the judge removed him and forced me to stand trial without legal counsel. Again, that conviction does not count under the statute for 922 little g little 1, because under 921 A 33B little I, it clearly says if you were not represented for those cases, those convictions don't count. In other words, I don't have a felony conviction in the eyes of the law because I did not have representation. Under Argersinger versus Hamlin, 1972, you had to have been represented in order for them to send you to prison. I've never been represented in those cases. That's what this is referring to. Okay, let's move further. You had to have actually had possession. I didn't have possession. I wasn't even in the state. They searched. Here's the thing. They're so busy trying to protect their little baby FBI agents that they will refuse, no matter what, to acknowledge the fact that they were either totally incompetent and derelict in their duty in searching a plane because they couldn't find a friggin' AR-15 and a little bitty Cherokee 140, or the truth of the matter, it wasn't there. And it wasn't there I was never asked at the trial. They made sure, and they pointed out in the brief, well, he never gave a reason why the rifle was there. Well, I was never asked. I was never given an opportunity to say that. But I believe it was planted in order not only to frame me, but to prevent me from finalizing a timber deal for the Chilcotin Nation, which was $1 billion timber deal, which would have gotten the Chilcotin Nation out from underneath the controls of Canadian money, and it would have gotten all their children back, and it would have solved all their problems. And lo and behold, this is the way that the United States agents interfered in internal affairs of another country, which is a crime in and of itself under the Montevideo Convention on Rights and Duties of States. The United States is guilty of that. Number three, it says I had to have possessed it in interstate commerce. Well, now they're trying to say that the gun traveled in interstate commerce. Well, that's not the law. The law is that I possessed it in interstate commerce. In other words, I'm running a business. I've got a license and I've got a contract. They do not want in the report of the brief of the prosecutor, he does not want the people to know, even though I said it at trial, I was a manager with Federal Express over aircraft and trucking operation, which is a transportation industry. I'm shipping freight. I know what commerce is. And then for years, I taught professional small business courses in business. I know what a business is. I know what commerce is. There's no contract in this case. You have to have a contract under, the Code of Federal Regulation, which all this stuff is regulated under. Clearly, like the fact that I didn't have any markings on the plane because under the Code of Federal Regulation, you can't have markings on the plane if you're not a U.S. citizen and it's not registered in this country. And that plane was not registered in this country from the moment I bought it. And I'm not a U.S. citizen. This is under 14 CFR 45.33, sale of an aircraft, removal of markings. Anybody can read it. Look it up. So all those detractors can take that and verify it. The next is the Code of Federal Regulations having to do with the firearms. And if I can remember it or find it, the fact is that it's all there. I know the Code of Federal Regulations sideways for certain things. Having to do with aviation is one, having to do with shipping of various commodities via Federal Express experience, the IATA and ICAO and all these other international codes. I had to know this stuff. This was part of my job. That's what I did for a long time. So anybody that thinks that they know more, like the expert they had, they're out of their mind. Go to, United States Code 18, United States Code 1116B2, and it tells you that a foreign government, irrespective of recognition of the United States, it defines what the leaders are, including an ambassador, and it says they are recognized as a internationally protected person. So irrespective of recognition by the United States, I am an internationally protected person because I am an ambassador of another country. Therefore, I'm supposed to be protected, not abused and accused. And the fact is that I've never heard anybody in 2007, a guy shot at me and my wife and shot and killed our dog because I'm suing the county executive over a rigged election. I'm exposing a rigged election and then a rigged trial. And I'm being persecuted and my life destroyed and my wife's life destroyed because they dare not let their sacred cows, the FBI, and these judges that are crooked be exposed for what they are, a bunch of friggin' pedophiles that are on power trips that have the power of God in their mind. Even this Shinzy guy that I thought I was calling, he says it doesn't matter what the Constitution says, the laws don't matter. What matters is what that man in the black robe says. In other words, he's a law unto himself, he's a God. In the eyes of these crooked attorneys, they view these judges as gods. Not in America, I'm sorry, not in my country, not on my watch. That's a rigged game. That's something you find over in Europe, some kind of throwback from years gone by. If you want a queen or a king, go back over to your side of the pond. Leave us alone. We're Native Americans. We do it. We're independent, self-sufficient, self-governing. That's what makes us strong. And as the Japanese said, behind every bush is a rifle. That's why they didn't invade. Well, they're slowly trying to eliminate those rifles by making everybody a felon and then coming up with this stupid cockamamie issue of interstate commerce. Interstate commerce is not you carrying a rifle across the state line. That's your own property, which you have a God-given right to do, recognized by the Constitution and virtually every state, but they've created some kind of stupid... Go to the Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8. It only gives Congress the power. We the people gave Congress the power to regulate commerce between the states, not us, and between the states and foreign nations, not us, and between the states and these Indian nations, not us, not between the people. The individual people are free to engage in commerce and trade freely according to the Jay Treaty. This is what George Washington signed. He signed that in 1794. It's basic history. If you know your history, I bet most migrants coming up from Mexico that study know this stuff more than most people in this country that call themselves Americans that don't have a clue. And I'm sorry, but I'm ashamed of these people that are detractors because they are either on the payroll and just, intellectually dishonest and professional liars like these attorneys I dealt with at the U.S. Attorney and the FBI, or they're just mentally lazy and or just, want to support somebody that, because they've got an alphabet behind their name.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, we're coming up on 12 minutes, and I was going to ask you to help if you feel like it, if you have the time and inclination to address these. Okay, so the detractors' narrative is that, of course, not the detractors, but you say that the rifle was planted. From my perspective, Mike, we got the Second Amendment. You have the right to own a gun, and I understand that your first felony charge, I believe, is complete bogus anyway, right? Because you had the right to stop the guy from firing 29 shots onto your property at your wife and already killed your dog. But regardless, you said that the rifle was planted by the FBI. They had multiple opportunity to find it because they were searching.
That's one.
Yeah.
That's one. That's one. There's one other. The other is that my friend Jerry Thomas, who has been in the plane multiple times. Now, they asked me, has he ever flown the plane? I said, I don't think so. But they never asked me, was he ever in the plane? He's the guy that checked the plane out with me when I bought the plane. He did maintenance checks. He had a key to the plane. All right, now, is it possible that Jerry, knowing that I'm going on this trip, now, in Jerry's mind, I've been acquitted and overturned of all those prior convictions because he's familiar with the fact that I've been exonerated. Is it possible that he put it in the plane thinking that I might need it in order for protection in case the plane goes down, I'm out in the middle of the wilderness someplace and there's a bear or something? I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I never had that conversation with him. I never asked him for anything, but I know that before I took the trip, I talked to him probably a day or two earlier, and he was talking about you need to make sure that you got some way to protect yourself. And I said, well, I don't. I mean, I think I gave you the last rifle that I had. I just, I never was really into rifles, but go ahead.
Okay. Is he alive today, that the person you just mentioned, Jerry?
I don't know. I mean, I've been locked up, but my wife told me that Jerry died of an aneurysm, a fluke. I mean, Jerry was very healthy. I've known Jerry for 30 some odd years, and I got him to quit smoking and everything else. He quit drinking. He didn't drink much in the first place, but he quit completely, teetotal, and he was a health nut. Like, he raised goats like me. I mean, he was Mr. Health Nut, and I don't know that. I would never have expected he would have had a brain aneurysm and died suddenly. And after this NSA agent reminded us about these directed energy weapons, I'm wondering, is it possible that they, found out that he knew the history?
You have 1 minute left.
They might have killed him. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know that they're crooks. I mean, I looked at Waco, and I look at Ruby Ridge. I look at, the unarmed protester out in Oregon. I mean, the FBI has a history of criminality. Next.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I'm with you on that. And I have the book Ruby Ridge, written by Randy Weaver and his daughter, where they murdered Vicki Weaver. And I think it was William Barr who said, we can't hold snipers accountable, otherwise the government won't be able to implement the laws upon the land. So they never wanted to hold Lon Horiuchi accountable for murder. It's just insanity. He murdered a woman holding a baby on a porch, and they refused to prosecute.
She was armed with a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to disarm the public. It's a mass takeover. They're trying to disarm the public because they know that they're rogue and they're stealing from us. And once we wake up, we're going to shut them down. And
thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
All right, that's Mike Parsons. You can find out more about his case at mikeparsons.org, or you can go to Year of Jubilee with one E, and you can click on Mike Parsons' photo and it will take you to his page. What I will tell you is they charged him with a felony for defending himself because there was people near his property shooting 29 times onto his property, threatening his life, his wife's life. They even killed his dog. He went and stopped them, and they charged him with a felony, even though he was the one being shot at. Once they got him with a felony, then they charged him with felon in possession, and I believe it's very possible they planted a weapon on him in order to charge him with that. Keep in mind, Mike was running for public office, and he was winning in a very corrupt county, and because he was winning the election, they couldn't have that. So they had to flip the vote totals, and they set Mike up as a criminal on false charges, and now he's in prison. And not only that, they have entrapped his wife, Pat Parsons, who was an engineer for 25 years, held a good paying job, a respectable person in her community. Ellie Mae, she loved animals. She loved living on the farm with Mike, and they've entrapped her, and now she's in an Alabama prison. What the FBI has done to Mike and Pat Parsons is atrocious. It's a tragic miscarriage of justice, and I pray that you write him a letter. If you have any questions, write Mike Parsons a letter and ask him. He's very transparent. And don't believe what the detractors have to say. They have assigned an entire team of detractors to Mike Parsons, and they put out false narrative after false narrative after false narrative to keep you in the dark and to make you suspicious about Mike. But Mike has no history of violence or hurting anybody. He only has history of helping and wanting to move this country towards freedom. And for him and his wife to be in prison is a miscarriage of justice. And I pray that you don't ignore them, and you write a letter to them and encourage them. Thank you for your time.